Welcome to Education Today. Hey everyone, I'm Scott Nunes, your host. You can follow me on Twitter at Mr. Nunes Teach. And with us today, we have the marvelous Jonathan Spike, founder of GameStorm's EDU, a good buddy of mine. We met at ISTE in person last year. We were following each other on Twitter before and brought him on tonight to share his work with game design, AR, VR, and STEM. So, Jonathan, welcome. How's it going?
Yeah, it's going pretty well, all things considered. During the pandemic, I've been able to find time to cram in some games over a distance with friends, colleagues, ed tech buddies, and everything. Doing the remote teaching thing and supporting people I work with ed tech, and all things considered, pretty good.
Yeah, right. All things considered, what's your current role right now in education?
Yeah, so I am the long title is Coordinator of Instructional Technology Integration Services, which is just a fancy way of saying I help pre-service educators and the faculty and staff in a college of ed prepare future teachers, future professionals for their roles using technology. And then I teach a couple of courses in addition at the college, digital tools, and then like my dream course since I was a kid is called Video Games and Learning. I teach that too. So
What? I want to come back to that. So I'm coming back to that one. I want to hear about that course.
Sure.
But first, I want to hear about your educational journey. And I want you to give a shout out to the Laugh Ed podcast because you're rebooting it, which I've been waiting. I need some comedy right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started as a high school English teacher in kind of central Wisconsin and did that for a few years. And I really enjoyed it. But I had a tech director. She was kind of my hero, my mentor, and she was taking a job as kind of a chief technology officer in a new district. And she and I had a chance encounter as she was cleaning out her office. She's like, "Hey, we want some tech integrators up in this new district. Would you be interested?" And I'm like, got a good thing going in the classroom, but rolled the dice, applied, and liked what I heard. Did the tech integrator K-12 for a few years and really kind of cut my teeth in a lot of the game-based learning, STEM implications and things like that. Learned from a lot of great teachers just talking with them. And then, applied to this current role because I kind of had a dream in college. Our instructors and the faculty members would, we'd talk about using tech in the classroom. They'd just be like, "Well, we're not sure. What are you guys doing, in your student teaching?" And I was like, "Oh, it'd be so cool to come back to college and be, an instructor or a somebody who had a role to help people build their tech skills, before you go out into the teaching field,
Right.
Instead after the fact." And so that role opened up in, where I wanted to live and applied and got it. So yeah, it's weird. It's one of those things where, a decade earlier, you have an idea of, wouldn't this be a cool job? And then suddenly somebody thought of the job right when you're kind of looking for it. So it's a weird journey.
Cool.
It's a weird journey. It's one of those journeys where I got very lucky, things fell into place and people advocated for me too, which was huge. And so I try to advocate for people, along with the journey too. And then you brought up Laugh Ed. That really came out of, I was actually, I was really struggling with my mental health, and I wanted a project that I thought would bring me some joy. And I gave myself a few rules. And you probably can relate to this, Scott. I don't think any of us do these vodcasts or podcasts, for the fame or the fortune, or that we do it because it fills a need for us. Either we like having good conversations, or we want to learn, and this is a sneaky way to do it, or whatever it might be, or we want to share. And for me, it was actually to fill a void of, I just wanted an outlet to laugh with some of the people I get to see every now and then at conferences and people I work with, and kind of, pull back the facade. And so that podcast is all just about teachers get on, we tell funny stories, we do a little improv, and Scott is one of our illustrious alumni from it. Had a great, at the end of the show, we do an improv, and I remember yours, I think you had to work in your classroom was sponsored by Pepsi. And you
Yeah.
had to like, you did something with karate too, like doing a self-defense class where you like had
Yeah.
the kids like kick like a Pepsi can in half or something. I don't even remember. It was nuts, but it was fantastic. So
Yeah.
yeah, you were a famed alumni, but that is a very long-winded kind of where I am up to this point now. There's the history of John.
No, that was really cool. So I want you to just go right into that course you're doing, your dream course with
Mhm.
game design. What's the format? What's the setup, and how's it going?
Yeah, so it's a really interesting course, and it's actually one that was kind of handed off to me. A faculty had started the course, and she just said, I feel like I've taken it, as far as I can go, and I want like some fresh eyes on it. And so actually, to hand it off, she and I and another gentleman, his name is Sharif Jackson. He's a fantastic. He actually works as a physics and math tutor, and then he does a ton in terms of inclusive gaming. He's been on an inclusive gaming podcast. He does a POC D&D called Rivals of Waterdeep. He's like super knowledgeable and super nerdy and like everything combined. But
That's awesome.
the three of us taught it, and then she handed it off to us too. So Sharif and I co-teach this course, Video Games and Learning. We don't do actually as much in the design aspect, but we work with future game designers. So it's students who
Oh, I
are
see.
looking to become designers, animators, working on the stories, or education students are our other big groupings. So we have this really interesting mix of like future game makers and future educators, and we're all talking about games and how they can be leveraged educationally.
Mhm.
Sharif really does a great job looking into how games tackle diversity and accessibility, where they do it well, where they don't, and where we can be kind of looking at them from a critical lens, how we can make better games and how we can have good conversations with games. I look at kind of the aspects of what can games teach us, how do games do it, what games do it really well, what games don't. And we really look at commercial games. We do look at some educational games critically, but we actually look a lot at commercial games and how well they do at teaching these like life skills and what messages they convey in terms of their representation. So it's a really cool course that just allows the students to have really honest conversations.
Mhm.
So I'd love to say I came up with the course, but I was just lucky enough to, kind of, get tabbed to carry on the torch, so to speak. And it's really fun. The students get into it, and we have some tough conversations in it, just because we tackle some hard hitting issues, and people don't realize games tackle these issues just like movies, just like
Right.
TV, just like novels and our literature do. So they're easily their own form of literature, and we talk about reading a game as literature in the course too. So another long-winded explanation for you there, Scott.
No, but so good. I think it's important for the audience to know, especially non-gamers. It's important for them to find out and discover how progressive and at the forefront of new thinking um, game designers are, and they embed that right in their video games and the objectives, the stories especially. And the stories are so rich. I've heard people in that industry say, that's the new wave. You're not going to have like, just sitting there and binge watching, but interacting with the material. So it'll be like a cinematic choose your own adventure that comes to life. That's really what's, in the future here, and probably sooner than we think, with the way technology's going. I guess that's a good segue into AR, VR. How do you think that's going to play in everything, and what are you doing with that?
Yeah, a leap I kind of took going on 2.5 years ago. I started working on my doctorate, and I at first when I started it was mainly because I had a bunch of colleagues and faculty members at the university I work kind of just nudge me and say, just don't think about it, just do it. And I was kind of doing it just because of this is never why you want to do something is peer pressure.
Right.
That's why I did. And I'm like, this is some super expensive peer pressure,
Yeah, it
that
is.
I'm getting into. But I had somebody in my first semester, I wasn't falling in love with it yet. But then I
Mhm.
talked to somebody, and she said the reason I went into it is she said I had these questions that I didn't have answers to, and nobody else was looking into them, and it was bugging me. She's like, is this the best way to do this, or this? And I didn't realize at the time, but that's kind of in the back of my head. I'm like, that is what I'm mad about. Like, I don't know enough about VR. Like, should I be advocating for it? Should I be doing these things? And so that's actually what motivated me. Is I want to know, like, I was excited about virtual reality. Like, I love, VR games. I love VR collaborative spaces, but I didn't know, is it actually making a dent? And there's literature out there, but not a ton. So I was like, I need to know more. And I was mainly interested in getting my doctorate to teach, be a full-time faculty. But now I'm more interested actually in just getting answers to these questions. I'm realizing I like what I do. And so my big focus, I'm actually moving into my dissertation, and the focus is going to be comparing what if you had learners learning in a VR world, head-mounted VR or kind of virtual world VR, where they're in a virtual space together, manipulating, creating, evaluating, versus a more traditional kind of what we've been doing during the remote teaching, COVID-19, where we're doing more video calls, we're using digital tools. What does it look like if we're in a space together? Do we feel more connected in a VR world? Are we able to do more high leverage activities? Do we feel more immersed than we do in the video call digital tools? Is there any discernible difference? Or is the VR just getting in the way? Is it impeding, or is it enhancing that experience? Is the question I really want to answer. And what's really great is it allows me to justify to my wife buying all these VR gadgets too. So it's also like, in addition to like, I really genuinely want to know, like, is VR the next great opportunity for digital teaching and teaching at distance? I also am like, I just need, I need to get that new version of the Quest so I can really dig deep into this research, right?
Let me know how you're selling your wife. I'm going to tell my wife as well.
She kind of like, there's a little sarcasm, like, oh yeah, you need that for your research. And there's a lot of air quotes, Scott. I
yes.
gotta say. Yeah.
My wife would do the same. So I've been investing in stuff. You can't really tell, but I'm trying to transform this room here. And things are kind of a mess, but I'm looking at new positions, trying different equipment out. I went a little crazy around Black Friday, and I basically bought everything. And so I'm testing it all out. And I am so blessed that Amazon has free returns,
right?
Because
absolutely,
some I'm going to use, some I won't, and I'm going to probably have to do a podcast on it.
Obviously,
that way people don't waste their time. I just feel like there's so much out there in terms of lighting. Like, I got this light recommended and that light, and really I don't like either of those. So then I tried a different one. One thing real quick that I found with the lighting, going on a quick tangent, is that they're all made really cheaply. And if they fall, they're probably going to break. And so I need something a little sturdier. I need something a little more mobile, especially once 2020 is over and the coronavirus is gone, or we have vaccines and everything's all good or as close to normal or our new normal as possible. And we can travel. Like, I can put some of these new lights in my suitcase and take them to ISTE and, do vlogs and things in my hotel room and have it be super cool, or do a session on that and showcase that. So that's something that I want to do in the future. So I'm keeping that in mind. I'm keeping a mobile studio setup in mind. That way, if I move to, I can take that with me. That's really cool what you're doing with VR. I think that is the scape of the future. And I already saw a little bit of that, right? We had some sessions at ISTE that were in VR. I was so busy, and am so busy still, that I couldn't attend any of those live sessions, but I saw them, retweeted them, and was super jealous. Did you attend any or put any on like that? Because that's super cool.
Yeah. So actually, when, originally it was, going to be held in, California and everything, I had a session accepted with Micah Shippey, and we were going to do, we actually, I didn't put in initially, I wasn't planning on going. And then I put in a people's choice, kind of thinking like, I really want to go. And we got it accepted. I kind of pitched to Micah Shippey if he wanted to get on board and do the VR session with me. He said, let's go for it. It was going to be collaborative VR experiences. And then, as we all know, ISTE goers, it got delayed, and then they said we're going all virtual. I was kind of hitting a crucial point in kind of my doctoral work, and I kind of talked to Mike, kind of like, do you still want to do the virtual? And we
Mhm.
realized it wasn't going to be as a lot of things we wanted to do were kind of VR activities that would have worked better kind of with the live audience. And we wanted it to be very interactive, and we thought it'd be really challenging the way ISTE was going to be designed to do it that way. So we actually pulled our presentation. Now knowing that they kind of did some of those virtual world setups, maybe could have pulled it off there. But yeah, we just had a lot of like hands-on. We were going to pull people up on the crowd and do a few things, and it just didn't quite align, our initial thoughts. So I didn't attend, but I was keeping an eye on it along with you, like the ways people were using the virtual worlds or VR spaces strategically. And it's really exciting. It's really cool. And some of the things people are doing, like, speaking of Micah Shippey, their Ready Learner One company
Oh,
that they have, they
yeah.
do events in alt space where everybody gets in, throws on their headsets, hops into a room, and you're in like a little hangout area listening to a guest speaker. And it's funny because at the end of it, they're like, all right, here's some snowballs and fireworks, and you're in VR like chucking snowballs at like your ed tech buddies and shooting off like sparklers and stuff. And you're just like, that, this might not quite be what we're envisioning for like the future of education, but you can't deny that at least just the sheer absurdity of it all is pretty exciting.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that. And one of my attractions to it is the ability to take something in the physical world, scan it in or bring it in some form or fashion into a virtual world or an AR world, and
Mhm.
then vice versa. So
Right.
to take those CAD files, those object files, and then to 3D print them with all the 3D printers I have, uh, just like, wow, the possibilities are endless. You mean I can conceptualize this, test it in a virtual world, get other people to look at it, and then print it out and have it, and this can be part of my design thinking process. This is so cool. Or vice versa, my realtor that I was telling you about off camera that I had on the last time I went live, he talked about working with a local toy developer and having his son do design thinking and designing wooden toys. And I thought, oh, well, after he designs them, we can scan them in and 3D print them, and do it that way too, or bring it into the VR space. And how cool
Mhm.
would that be? Just the possibilities are endless right now. The tech is really catching up, I would say, to what we're able to conceptualize. And I think that's been a big barrier. You talked about when you were going through college how, uh, you know, things weren't really there that you were learning about in the workplace. Like, ed tech was growing, but you
Mhm.
didn't know about that when you were in the program. Well, in high school, I can think back, a while ago. I won't date myself. I'm getting a little bit older these days, but when I was in high school, I was advocating for the teachers to use tech and things, and I offered to show them and do permissions. And some entertained me. Most were like, I'm too busy, and I kind of get it now, right? I
Mm.
was asking for a lot of their time. I didn't realize how valuable teacher time is.
Right.
And they had families and things. And so I get it now. No hard feelings. It was a good life lesson. But I conceptualized things like smart boards before they were even a thing. And I was telling them, how cool would it be to do these things and show them? They're like, Scott, you're off in la la land. Like, that's so far away. And then, like, a decade later, like, here we go. There's smart boards. And now, like, anybody can have a smart board or projector. And now we're having these virtual conferences and talks. It's perfect. What I was going to teach if I was in the classroom this year was a computer science infused English class. And we were going to talk about AR, VR, AI, ethics. So I love that you're touching on some of those things. They're of interest to me. And, at some point, I would love to go back and teach a class. I'm missing the classroom in my new ed tech coach role, but at the same time, I love it. And there are so many new opportunities, so I can't leave anytime soon. It's just thrilling. Do you find that a little bit with your transitions going from the classroom to the ed tech space to now adult learners?
Yeah, it's really interesting, and what's great about this role is I kind of get to dip my toes in with all the different groups through some of the things we do. But I remember I think the hardest thing for me was going from that English teacher to the full K-12 ed tech, integrator, coach role, whatever people are calling them.
Mhm.
I think that was tough because from going from 100 to 0 of like the teaching was challenging. With this, what's really nice, and I think it lends some credibility when I'm working with our faculty is they know I'm teaching. I teach a course a semester, and so it helps. It also helps if you're in that coach role like you are, where you're not removed. You're not really that far removed from the classroom time. If you start to be that 8 or 9 year old coach who's been out of the classroom that long, then they start asking the questions about, well, do you really know the realistic things facing us? But I think it helps having that additional class. And I know some districts have set up where they've got actually a ed tech coach who maybe teaches a course and then the rest is coaching, so that they can kind of lab test out some of their crazy schemes. They can be their guinea pigs, because that's
Mhm.
another thing I found that was tough. You might run into this pitching someone to guinea pig something. Some teachers really don't like to like fall flat
They
on their face
don't.
in the classroom.
They don't. They're
So
not okay with it.
so they don't want to, release control. And so you really have to build that trust before you're like,
Mhm.
I have a crazy idea. Let me pitch it to you. They need to see like a pattern of success working with you
Yes.
before they'll try like something really bold and out there. So that's another thing too. I found like if I
Mhm.
was going to go big with them, I really had to establish like and be upfront with them and say like, you're the first like trying this. I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't
Yeah.
know, but that's okay, because if it works, it's going to be brilliant. If it's not, we'll tweak it and we'll implement it in the next unit. So yeah, it's an interesting dynamic going from teacher to that coach role. Now I'm in kind of this weird hybrid, and what's nice is I do get to we pull in high schoolers, we pull in middle and elementaries for some of our camps. And so I still get to dip my toes in that world. I still get to work with, current high school teachers and things like that. But yeah, I do miss the call of K-12. But
Mhm.
it's fun to impact future K-12 teachers. So another long-winded response.
Yeah, you're making a great impact. Uh, with that, I was thinking. Sorry, I was going um, to back to ISTE again and those VR sessions. It came to mind like who was doing them. So Amanda Fox did a
Yeah.
not at ISTE one, which was really cool. That I also missed, but I was just kind of following what she was going to be covering in there, and then James McCrary. I think I said his name right,
Yep.
his
Yeah.
last name.
McCrary. Yep.
Yeah, McCrary. Thank you for correcting me. And then Steve Sato.
Yep.
Steve's great. I've connected with him a couple of times in person because he's in California and we're both affiliated with Q. And we both really like doing the maker playgrounds that they
Hmm.
do. So
Yes.
he brings all this cool VR stuff. And then I'm on the 3D printing side. And when there's a lull, we're chatting and we're talking just like you and I are. So he's a blast. So you got to check him out. And James, I'm just getting to know him. I've been following him for a while, but
Hmm.
we connected over ISTE 2021. He and Claudio are doing some things behind the scenes, and they tied me into that a little bit. So I don't want to reveal too much, but there's some stuff in the works. Nothing crazy, but they're great guys. They're doing great work. I wanted to give them a shout out too. And speaking of ISTE, where you and I connected, that was a great time. I remember going to your session with Michael Matera and meeting him in person and you in person for the first time. That was awesome. We were chilling. Then we got pictures with Josh and Jeff from GimKit. They really liked your session. And
Oh yeah.
I love GimKit. That was an amazing day. And then we went out, chilled for a bit, uh, got some coffee, as you reminded me. And I have this picture. I wish I knew this program. I'm gonna find it while we're talking and pull it up. But I have a picture of us in front of, I think, one of those like love
Yeah.
statues, one of the Philly statues. We have a
Yeah.
picture together, so I like that one whenever I'm looking through my ISTE photos. Uh, what do you miss most about being in person right now, connecting with other educators?
Yeah, I absolutely love it's like going back to your nerdy family and at those conferences and that's been one casualty of the pandemic and everything, and it is truly the unscripted moments. I think I love the sessions, and I'd say my first few ISTEs, it was my favorite moments were like running across the venue to get to like as many as I could, and like waiting in line at a ticketed event, getting in and being like, boom, right as they close the gates. But
Mhm.
now, as I've gotten more comfortable, with some of the people in the ed tech scene, it is like seeing your just nerdy dysfunctional teacher family again, and doing what we did. There was great sessions, and I just had to tell myself, like, I can go back on the hashtag, I can check it out. Everybody posts their resources. I can go find the person whose session I missed and talk to them. But like after my session, I was dragging, and so there it is. Look at that,
Yeah.
pulling it
So
up.
the I love Philly sign. So that was a great time.
Yeah,
I missed that in Philly. I had never been to the East Coast. It's amazing. I have to go back, but I told my family I'm taking you this time. They were supposed to come, but it was going to be thousands upon
sure.
thousands of dollars, and we thought, hey, let's just wait because I didn't plan it out well enough.
Yep.
It was going to cost an arm and a leg. Let's wait. Let's map it out, and let's be smart about it.
Yeah, absolutely. That was just two ed tech brothers in the city of brotherly love, right there.
Yeah,
At
yeah,
the at the at the picture. There you go.
that was perfect. And then we hung out at Flipgrid Live. We got to link up with the ed tech rabbi,
Yep.
or the tech rabbi, Michael Cohen. So that was
Yep.
really cool.
I
And
think Eric Kurtz. I think it was his. I think it was his 50th birthday, and so he had like this big, like elaborate, I think like birthday hat or shirt on. I don't like. Wasn't that right? Like I think it was his birthday, and like they sang to Eric there, didn't
I
they?
remember them singing to Eric. What I
Yeah.
remember though about Eric is his story about making like reheating French fries, I want to
Yeah.
say,
Yeah.
on an iron in the
Yeah.
hotel room.
Yes. Yeah.
And posting that publicly. That's the only reason I'm sharing that.
Yes.
I thought that was hilarious.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, he had the iron upside down and he was reheating fries. Oh my gosh. Yeah, and that's another example of what we see all these people like in the digital, we see them doing the digital conferences, but what you're not going to hear at an all digital ISTE is like catching Eric Kurtz in between speakers at Flipgrid Live, wearing his birthday, like ridiculous birthday shirt, telling you about
Mhm.
the iron fries story, which I bring up every time I see him. Saw him at IdeaCon and outside of Chicago. That was right before things hit the fan. Like that was end of February when it was still a rumor and not a reality. But yeah, it truly is those unscripted moments, I guess would be how I'd describe them, where you just kind of catch up with someone and you get some of your best ideas from kind of just shooting the breeze with the brilliant minds that are there.
Yeah, exactly. Are you planning on going to any digital ones this year, like IdeaCon or TCEA, anything like that?
Yeah, I think TCEA, and look at that. There we go.
Yeah, with Heather. So thought
Yep.
I'd pull that up
Yeah, Heather
here.
Myers. Yeah.
I'll let you keep going. So you're going to
I like.
TCEA?
I think IdeaCon and TCAA, I think they like partnered up
Yeah,
or
they're
something. Yeah.
together, which is so
Yep.
cool. I'm trying to get my way paid for
Yeah.
for that one. A little sneaky.
Yeah.
Just with 2020 having a new baby.
Yep.
He's 2 months old now.
Congrats.
Yeah,
Congrats.
thank you. Yeah, so great. I absolutely love it, love him, but that leaves me like no time to do like extra stuff.
Yeah.
So the podcast is already extra, but I'm trying to keep that going and not trying to lose steam with that. So I've limited my speaking engagements right now until I know they're in person, and then I'll make that another big focus of mine because I really do enjoy that, and I love presenting. But I think more than anything, I love connecting with other educators, hearing teacher stories and whatnot. What do you have in the works right now? I don't know if you want to talk about the Laugh Ed podcast or anything else you got going on right now.
Yeah, so I'm kind of at this nice like exhale point with the doctoral work. So I just did like the we call it a candidacy exam, other people call it comps, and so you kind of submit your like, here's my pitch, proving to you I'm ready to do like the dissertation, ready to do the big research study, and I passed that, which like I said, big exhale, and so now I'm like, okay, well, things get real in January again. I pick up with that. My wife and I are expecting our first child in April of 2021. So we're excited.
Yeah.
So I've got like this period where I'm like, I got to hit my project really hard. So
you do.
Yeah.
I second that. You got to hit it. I tried to get as much done as I could before the baby. So, apologies again to everyone out there, who has an episode that I haven't released yet.
Yep.
You're actually kicking off our STEM series. I didn't tell you that, but You're kicking it off. So I have some pre-recorded ones. You're the headliner for it, Jonathan Spike. Everyone, make sure you're following him on social media. Which reminds me, I forgot to shout out your social media. What is it? Where can people follow you?
Yeah, no, it is on Twitter. It is at Jonathan Spike, Jon. I almost started with a G, JONATHAN, and then Spike like the rusty nail. I should have put it in my display name for the StreamYard stream, but that'd be the best place.
Have you on.
Yeah, and then I another project I've got going on too. That I know, Scott, I know you mentioned you've utilized with your students, but Game Storm EDU was a project of mine coming out of a Google Innovator Academy. I wanted to kind of make games more accessible to teachers and students. And I realized, kind of going into it, that was my idea, is like, how can we make, can we curate, great games for them to use? And I'm like, actually, I'm more interested in having them make the games. And so that became my new interest, is making it better. And so one piece that's new, I had a bunch of like, kind of process and steps to doing it, but I just created a workbook and a kind of guide to that students and faculty can use. And so it kind of walks them through, like students could do it individually, or you could do it as a group, but it gives them the brainstorm space, and it gives them like all the concrete examples right there. So it's designed to be like, here, this one document would really help you walk through the process. So I just put that on the GameStormEDU.com site. And I think that could help. And that site also has games that either I've made or other educators have made and submitted to the site, or students have made and submitted to the site. So we got...
I forgot about that. I need to go back through and submit some things. I'm going to show some student photos here.
Yeah.
Because that's an amazing site. Let me pull it up here. Share screen. Okay, so we can see it. The view's kind of weird here on this one, but we have our gaming instructions for some of our Hunger Game. Oh, there we go. Right side up. For our Hunger Games board game, and this was so intricate. I absolutely loved it. So you got the rules, got the gameplay. Wonder, let me zoom in. There you go. So people can see that.
I'm digging it.
Fantastic job. I think this one was about 6 pages. Little blurry. I kept this. I begged the student. Has a storyline even. So you mentioned that with gaming here. We have a whole storyline to go with it that dovetails between our class Hunger Games story and the actual story. So I love it. Of course, this student or group of students, it was a group that came up with this. They did such a great job. And then there was also business aspects to it. So I had them do a creative brief and they had to talk about their branding right here. Let me zoom in. They had to talk about their brand, their voice, their budget, how much they spent. So they
Yeah.
spent $30 overall, and that wasn't a requirement. So
Yeah.
I provided supplies. They could go get supplies, um, ask, partner up with local businesses, things like that. And I had a lot of stuff. They could use the 3D printer. So I really encouraged that. So I started processing orders. And I want to showcase some of those pieces. Oh, they have their market research. That was another part. They have their academic research. And this is really nice. So they use the Gale Research Library and they have, just higher tier research. I was really proud of this group. It was so clear. We have some art there.
Oh man.
Panamopoly, and this group. I love this group. So these were my vigilantes all year, and they fought and they fought. They were the best of friends, but they fought so much over this, and they redid it a couple times because the first iteration was so bad, and the board was falling apart. And they were really pleased with the outcome. I wanted to point out this one in particular. So on your website, we found some resources to make your own custom game. So a student did that. They
Nice.
digitally designed this board, paid for a board on their own, and then
Oh, nice.
glued it down. So these are like giant vinyl stickers on this board, and the board folds up, and they use Lego characters as the characters.
Nice.
And it's a shoots and ladder style game with a spinner, and you can see it's called Escaping Verona, and then they have their brand Rags Gaming Incorporated. This was just top notch too. I was really proud of this group, and so I highly recommend GameStorm EDU. This one, it's been a while. I don't remember how it was played, but very complex, and the parts in all the corners and in the middle simulate the different places that battles took place in the Hunger Games. So it's a novel review game, and same with this one. So this is one student's rendition of the Hunger Games. You got the water, you got the cornucopia in the middle, and
Oh yeah.
the areas around there. So I mean, you helped spark that. So my
Nice.
message to the educators out there listening would be, don't hesitate to share out what you have. You never know how it's going to impact somebody, who it's going to impact. Jonathan didn't necessarily know that, but he helped me create these units for the next 2 years. And I was sharing with him off camera, we were going to do something really big this year in the spring semester. But of course, the virus happened. So it was rough. Thanks everyone who's commenting. Sorry, I didn't give a formal shout out to Tyler Keefe and Anna and Adam Bold. He's saying that it's great that he's catching this, misconnecting with other teachers and educators at conference. Yeah, definitely. So I'm liking this. And once again, you guys got to listen to the Laugh Ed podcast. They're my 3 favorite episodes. I really like mine because you just brought out a different side of me. And then I really liked Gray Geiler's. I think his is episode number 2, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
And then Mandy Freilich.
Yes.
Hers was hilarious. I don't want to spoil it, but if you check out EduMatch Books or follow Mandy's work with social emotional learning, self-care, mental health, she is amazing. And she's not always serious, but she can be serious. And this is just a complete 180. So you definitely brought out a completely different side that I've never seen publicly from Mandy. So I loved it. So I'm thrilled. When are you launching that? Do you know yet?
Yeah, so I basically I had about 15 episodes in what I called kind of season one. And so I had about 3 or 4 saved up, and I recorded them kind of beginning of the, start of the pandemic. And then it just, I think we hit a time, as a society, we had racial unrest. The pandemic was really hitting hard, and I couldn't in good conscience, like, I just felt like it was really tone deaf to release like a podcast about like, telling. I know laughter is really important, but I don't know, things were tough, and they're still tough, but I kind of hit a point where I was like, I need to hear these again. And so I shelved it over the summer because it just felt like times were a little too heavy for it, even for, show to try to make people laugh. So that's one of the reasons. Also, like, got back into the doctoral work, and so I will say also laziness, but also like it like timing. I just was like, this would be kind of tone deaf of me. Like, there are bigger things. I need to let the stage be focused more on these issues. So the plan now is to try to get back into kind of a regular posting. And there's a fun idea. A friend and I are going to do. We just did one of my favorite traditions around the time of ISTE proposal acceptance and rejections is I don't know. Yeah, Scott, you might have seen this, but the ISTE rejects. So this was started like 6-7 years ago, maybe longer. Dean Sharesky and Doug Roberson, the weird teacher, and Dean Sharesky's a ed tech speaker, but those are the first two I believe I saw doing it. But they just say like, oh, my session, some ridiculous topic was rejected, right? Like using the Bing search engine in your classrooms, like just these stupid things. It was funny. One guy brought up Etch-a-Sketch-Noting, and I, like 5 years ago, I look back and I'm like, oh my God, I talked about Etch-a-Sketch-Noting for a failed one. Like, we had no idea we had made the same ISTE reject, but it just like, you share out a bunch of like absurd topics that would never fly at ISTE. And you're just like, oh, I can't believe this session got rejected. And it's just like, it snowballs, and the stuff people come up with is just, it slays me. Some of the things that educators come up with. So we're actually, I think, going to do a special episode where we just pitch like what some of these ISTE rejects would look like we kind of do at the end of each episode. So I've got 4 or 5 episodes in the hopper, and hoping to record some more. And I try to post them about every Monday, and I'll probably do it until I get bored, or I don't schedule them out enough and run out of time. So I will tell you, if you like a podcast that's consistent, mine ain't it. Look to the Scott Noons of the world who are a little bit better about being on schedule.
No, I'm not perfect. You talked about the summer. I kept TNT going as much as I could, and the demands of my new job and Matthew's new job with that really took its toll. And then you talked about getting ready for your baby in April. I had to get ready for my baby in September, and just the state of the world, right? There were some pretty serious violent crimes near my neighborhood, and that took its toll on me too. Just like, wow, this is so close. And that's not anything I've ever really shared publicly, but it hit me hard. And then I can't even remember, I think just health concerns with my wife. We had a miscarriage last year, and that was kind of hard. So we were really concerned with this pregnancy. And so it was just tension, like, okay, we're doing everything, making sure she's okay. I'm trying to do more chores and making sure that she and the baby are well taken care of. And thankfully, everything worked out okay. Mom's good, baby's good. They're bonding great. We're really enjoying this time, and I'm blessed to be able to work from home right now and be able to kind of see them in passing when I'm not podcasting or working, or get in my second or third cup of coffee. So that's been really nice, but I too dipped down. I'm with you. I think that was just, a time to really reflect and to talk about different things and to not maybe talk about the normal things. But with the elongation of this pandemic and just so much pressing down on us, um, we need some semblance of hope, encouragement. Um, and with that, you're just a great ideator and a doer in terms of what you're doing. And I love that you too are a former ELA educator doing STEM, right? I was told in an interview uh, that, you know, ELA teachers couldn't do STEM or STEAM. And I think that's just wrong and not the truth because you, I, Nick Provenzano, many others come from the humanities. And I would argue that that gives you a better idea. Think about Minority Report, right? Think about, I mean, and I don't want to focus on all the negative stuff, but just the tech in general, but like Orwell, 2000 or 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. I'm trying to think um other ones. It's late, so I'm getting tired. So I can't remember all of them, but there's a lot in modern literature, the Hunger Games even, right? There's lots of tech that they talked about that we're experiencing now. And that was written, not horribly long ago, and it's already kind of detailing what's there. What would you say to those people that say that, not everybody can do STEM or STEAM?
Well, I think we've got to realize, where I think we got to look at where things are trending, and it goes back to uh, your last guest was this person who made it big in the real estate industry, and I think we got to realize that there's so much that goes into producing a well-rounded graduate, right? And
Mhm.
I think we do need to stop looking at ourselves as all in these islands, right? That you do ELA here and you do social studies here, you do right. When you start thinking about asking students to solve really tough questions, you realize that we all want them to get to the same place. We want them to be critical people. We want them to be good people. We want them to be good citizens. We want them to love what they do and what they make. And your students like went through the whole, when you look at them producing those, they made a business plan. They designed, and iterated on their design in your class. They pitched it. And I mean, to say that like you had to cut it off at just the pitch of that and you couldn't let them design those things, you couldn't let them do the business, like, if you had stopped at like what the ELA standards were for that, it would have felt like an unfulfilled project, right? So,
Exactly.
yeah. So I think if we, stop, saying like we are the protector of this content, we start saying like, am I giving the student something powerful that they would be able to turn around and say like, I belong in your Stanford Business School because I just knocked this thing out of the, I made a business proposal, right? I can show it to you, right? If they
Right.
can show you like I did a laser cut of this, in for my social studies, like it doesn't matter if it falls into that bin, but if we're allowing them to tackle really tough questions, if we're letting our students make something that they're genuinely excited to share, your students made a playable game that their parents, guardians, friends, enemies, family members could play at the next socially distant gathering, right? Well, not this year, but I think that's the important thing. And so, ELA, I think we're really blessed because we have such an intersection. We're
Yes.
foundational in every subject, as the basis of reading, writing, argumentation, speaking. I mean, we come up in everything. So to say like everybody has to stick to their subject, like, we're literally embedded in all of them. It'd be absurd to, cut the cut the line at certain subjects. So that's again, like my 15th long-winded response to that question.
No, but I think there is so much interconnectivity and intersections within ELA because we talk about science. I talk a lot about AI, nonfiction in science and fiction, and then talk about like this course I was going to do this year if I was still in the classroom was exploring how literature fosters innovation and how the thoughts and ideas of today become the tech of tomorrow, and how important it is to record and to dream, because like Walt Disney says, if you can dream it you could do it. I want to pause for a sec and throw this one back up. Our good buddy Greg Eiler says hashtag LAX18. Shout out to CCQ, our local Q affiliate here in the Central Valley. Give us a quick background on what hashtag LAX18 is. I know what it is, but
Yeah.
for all of our listeners.
Yeah, it's funny. We brought up Greg's episode of Laugh Ed, and I think if you say his name 3 times, he appears or something like
That's
Beetlejuice
the
or
rule. Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, no, that was, and it all ties back in. You know, we talked about Game Storm EDU. I was at the Google Innovator Academy at in LA, technically in Venice, I guess. You know, if you want to get specific about it, but LAX in 2018. We all, like 37 of us, came in with ideas. We brainstormed, we bounced ideas off each other. And it's funny what I came in with and what I emerged, you know, having like started the footprint of, were totally different. And it was completely a result of thinking about who this would affect, talking with people, and getting ideas and seeing really what I was passionate about, what I thought would be really valuable for people. So talking with people like Greg and just sapping up like the wisdom of the room was so powerful. And so GameStorm EDU came out of LAX18, the LA Google Innovator 2018 Academy. And so it was something that I've tried to now replicate in classes, is the design thinking approach of that academy. And really anybody can do design thinking. It's not like a secret sauce that Google has, captured and they like release it through the air vents, at that one academy. It's like you can do the design thinking approach, and pretty much I'm guessing, what happened with those board games your students make was design thinking, was ideating and trying to develop an item that would obtain those goals, and what would people like to play, and how can we build on great ideas we already have, in the groups you made. So yeah.
No, exactly. And I'm so glad you went through the Innovator program and came up with GameStorm EDU. Shout out again to the website, because it's a valuable resource. And you had so many different game mechanics. I forgot to talk about that. So I encourage the listeners to check that out. It's not just ideas or hypotheticals. You go in depth and you add a lot of examples, and like you said, teachers could submit their game examples. I checked those out too, but you talked about different game types. So we really did look at that research, and in our design thinking process, like, hey, how did this game type play out? I would say about 20 to 30% of students change their game mechanics after going to your website. So it was deeply influential, and I let them use that as part of their research. Like, okay, they actually had to go to your website, and that was like one of the things on the rubric. So it was perfect. It's a credible source. It's good. I vetted it. I don't think there's really many other sites out there like that. I'm glad to see you continue it, keep it up, and keep going. And speaking of going and keeping on, it's getting super late for you for where you're at. I find myself waning, even though I'm loving the conversation. But I want to be respectful of your time. So as we come to a close, what's maybe one lasting piece of advice you have for the audience to kind of get through 2020 and start 2021 strong?
Yeah, I think it all comes back to just trying to get in touch, with, the people you care about, whether it's your students, your family, your friends. Reach out to them and find a common, I think something in common that you think would make just a really great experience that you can all share from a distance. I'll give you an example. I read on Twitter, I'd never heard of these PowerPoint parties. And so what they are is everybody comes to the event, if you want, with like an absurd PowerPoint where they talk about like an absurd topic, like a conspiracy theory they have, like something they're fired up about a show or whatever it might be, or like a mannerism in public that needs to stop. And everybody watches and like they give their presentation meant to be funny, ridiculous, and everybody like asks some Q&A at the end. And we did this with some friends. It was just a blast. And find something like that. Find your niche with your people and find a way to do it, because I think that that's so important is we kind of circle back to what unifies us and keep that going. I think that's what's kept me sane, is going back to those common threads, whether it's games, whether it's like our absurd PowerPoints, whether it's, whatever it might be, or resuscitating an old memory, like, grabbing coffee at ISTE, 2019. Those are the things that, are gonna allow us to make it through this on the other side. So yeah, find your people, find what binds you, and get together and celebrate that. There you go.
No, I'm going to steal that idea. I think that's a great one. I want to make sure everybody follows you on Twitter at Jonathan Spike. Go to GameStorm edu. Is it edu.com?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, and Laugh Ed Podcast, where can they find that? I know they can search for it on the player of their choice, but do you have a formal website? Is it just laughed.com?
Laughedpodcast.com.
Laughedpodcast.com. All right. Thanks, Jonathan. And I want to encourage the listeners to also go to anchor.fm/ed today to hear this and future episodes on Education Today. And right now, we have a great series, 12 Days of Christmas Educator series, where, like Jonathan, everybody is sharing out a message of hope, encouragement, advice, giving you some pro tips on how EdTech tools can help save your sanity a little bit as we bring this very tough and challenging school year to a close, like full calendar year. Of course, we still got 2021 ahead of us, right? But let's not only survive the rest of 2020, but let's start to thrive and really make 2021 one of the best years ever. Thanks again, Jonathan. I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Scott. Pleasure.
All right, take care, everyone. Thank you for listening to Education Today. It is my pleasure to share with you all. Let's stay connected on Twitter. You can find me at Mr. Noons Teach. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast on the player of your choice and give Education Today a positive review on Apple Podcasts. Remember, everyone, out here in this field of education, it's grind time.